Hello, my name is Nathan Lim, and I am the founder of the Haven Community. You're here listening to the Haven Community Inside the Teenage Mind, a podcast brought to you by the Haven Community, which discusses the minds of the teenagers and how we can go together in conversations and discussions about building up the teenage society. I'm here joined by two members of our team.
I am Lanie Lee, the head writer of the Haven community.
I'm Megan Tecson, and I'm one of the authors of the Haven community. So today we're gonna go over comfort zone because I feel like it's a very important topic to discuss. Saying that we're teenagers, and it's one important thing that we all break in throughout our years. Are there any times you have gone out of your comfort zone, either during high school, middle school, or really any time?
I think a breaking point for me to get out of my comfort zone was definitely like doing presentations. Like as much as that sounds like so generic and so mainstream to everyone as a teenager and in the and in education, like being forced and brought upon into experiences of just being able to present and grow these like abilities to publicly speak, I think was just like one that was especially for me to get out of my comfort zone because like I always was like shy, like I was always like reserved to myself. So I really did not have that much experience just um like speaking in front of like a whole crowd. So being exposed to that for like the first time was definitely like getting out of my comfort zone and like trying like to do something that I've never done before. But like through the experiences I've had with like being exposed to getting more comfortable with public speaking, I found that like that was like a first step in me realizing like, oh, like that is what stepping out of a comfort zone looks like.
Yeah, in my case, I feel as though there are like a lot of definitions for what I guess, comfort zone could look like or what it could be. And for the most part, in my experiences, that means for me stepping out of, I guess, my bubble from, I guess, also just being shy as well. And I don't think that a lot of people, I guess, really realize the importance and the like heavy impact that just public speaking can have on a lot of people. Like I know that there are people who are really afraid of public speaking and like they'll like break down and stuff like that, but it's like those small steps that they take to expose themselves and to be able to ultimately present themselves in front of like a class or in front of other people. I think that's really important in terms of stepping out of my comfort zone. Um,
I definitely agree. Even though like public speaking may seem like such like a small task to do to some people, it means a lot because like being a really like reserved person, it's kind of scary facing all of those people, probably like a class of 30 to 40 people having to talk in front of them. In my experience, I feel like one of my like breaking the comfort zones was enrolling myself in more difficult classes in my sophomore year because even though it's like such like a small and minute task to do and it's like you have to like do it sometime, it's something that I really pushed myself to do because I never like trusted myself to do so, especially enrolling myself in academic decathlon because I knew I had to work with a team who was not in my grade, who were all upperclassmen, and I had no friends in that class. So even though I had trouble making friends the first year around, and I guess putting myself out there to the teacher too, it really helped me like now that I'm in the class for 2 years, it really helped me like put my be more social with people and I guess put myself out there more knowing my self-worth.
Wait, so just out of curiosity, Megan, like when you said stepping out of your comfort zone and taking more challenging classes, I don't know, like I feel like in terms of taking challenging classes, that's something that I guess has been normalized for me. I don't know.
I definitely see where you're coming from. It's just like in my case, I've always like, especially through middle school and like ninth grade, I've always like comforted myself in classes that I knew I could like pass, and I knew that like I can learn the information and like it won't be like such a big deal. But then once our school offered like APs, I was like kind of scared to be honest, because I knew that I had to like change up my habits and like actually try in school, if that makes sense. Because I used to just like breeze along, not study for my tests, and I still like get an okay grade. But then like taking challenging classes really pushed me to like, I guess, break what I had normalized in my life, like just sleeping all day, not doing work, showing up, taking the test, passing, just like that same attitude I had.
Yeah, I think that was like an experience that definitely for me that I had to get like used to. Like definitely like that can be a good example of comfort zone because like I was always so used to like just being like like for me, like I guess it wasn't always comfortable, but it was like to the point where like it was at a certain like workload and I would like be able to like feel comfortable with it, but like being exposed to like more challenging classes when I got to high school and especially like this transition from like junior year to senior year and just being able to like gain up also on college credit and like meeting my graduation requirements have been like the most incredibly like strenuous and like stressful times. And for me, like that was definitely like I guess you can say a step away from the comfort zone and just being able to break out of it because like I have never dealt with like so many obstacles like college classes, senior schedules, applying for colleges, like all of that coming down on me and weighing down on me is definitely so overwhelming. And I haven't really seen of it as like a breaking point until like now, like until it came to like this discussion, which I think is definitely very like relatable to a lot of people.
I know comfort zones are like a really personal thing to people. So is there anything you guys have like learned about yourself in the process? Like any like hobbies you found that interested you because you pushed yourself out or any like skills you learned?
With that, I feel like it's like I feel like a lot of the things. So for in my case, I guess my comfort zone was largely attributed to like being comfortable talking to other people and like really putting myself out there. Cause like when I was younger and stuff like that, and even as like a teen and whatnot, my parents would always kind of do things for me. So if it was like calling people to do things or turning in packets or talking to teachers, like that was always done by like my parents for me. And so like I guess the social some degree of social anxiety led me to kind of be cooped up in my comfort zone, and I didn't really approach a lot of my hobbies, and I guess was like afraid to go meet new people, participate in new activities. So it was like a very um I guess, how do I put this? So it was really holding me back from a lot of like majority, if not all of my activities and really having fun and stuff like that. I think one of them would be just talking to people because I'm like really extroverted and I really enjoy meeting new people and like talking about, oh, like what are your, I guess, experiences in life? How have things impacted you or something like that? I think that's something that not being able to step out of my comfort zone for the longest time has really taken a toll on, I suppose.
That's good to hear. I feel like putting yourself like socially out there is a big step in like breaking your comfort zone if you grew up like very reserved and having people do stuff for you. Because I was also the same because like my dad always like called the doctor for me, called my teachers for me, or like spoke to people for me when I was scared. And then like once I hit like the ages of like 16 and 17, my dad just like told me I have to be responsible for my own self since we're technically adults when we turn 18. So he's been like making me call a doctor myself, like schedule appointments by myself, and I guess like get used to being independent, because I feel like that's like a really important thing to do, because I've always depended on people to help me out with stuff because I never knew what to do, which is like I can always ask them questions, but I feel like breaking that zone of like being my own self is really important in this age, since we're almost going off to college and we're basically on our own after that. And like maybe getting a job, which I'm scared of myself, since I still struggle with like that social anxiety, since I can't really like talk to people off the bat. So it'll be a tough task to mostly endure.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. Like just being able to think about like growing into that independence, like because I was always like seeking for dependence from my parents as well, just having people like do those things for me. So like thinking about that is like just realizing just how we can be independent and getting out of the comfort zone with that, because like definitely growing up we're going to have to realize that we're going to be on our own for the most part. And like Megan said, like finding a job and things like that is really scary because some people do have that fear of just being socially like active and energetic. And for me too, like sometimes I struggle with like having that energy and um, that mood to really be socially engaging. So I think just that's an important factor of just realizing that those are things that are inevitable and part of growing up and just really being independent for oneself, and something that like I also have to be aware of.
I feel like I should have asked in the beginning, but like, is there like any like specific things you guys find comfort in? Whether it's like comfort food, staying with family, staying with friends. I mean, in my case, when I'm like my biggest comforts is like being with my friends, since I can always be myself around them. And like when I'm with them, I'm able to like talk to people like freely and not be scared. But when I'm without them, like I'm kind of scared to talk to people sometimes, because I'm just like not used to it, I guess, which I'm trying to break, but I just overthink about it a lot.
So I guess unfortunately, I don't necessarily feel as though spending time with my friends helps to I guess make me comfortable. Like it's at times it can be fun, but majority of my friend group is like really, I guess, um overachieving in terms of academics. And so majority of that time spent talking will somehow kind of be brought back to like, oh, like what, like college and like us preparing and like what universities are we going to, what majors are we going to go through, because we still haven't figured that out. But I guess like that's like the major concern, like that what we all currently have. And so the conversations keep reverting back to that. In terms of things that actually make me comfortable, I guess, um, I like to distract myself a lot by just like watching, like, I guess, watching K dramas or like watching TV shows or like videos on YouTube. I think I would imagine that's a lot of what a lot of people do, and it's not necessarily healthy because sometimes I can like be really addicted to, I guess, YouTube and like the internet, and then I end up just like binging things and not, being active.
So for me, like what I find comfort in also is like similar to like what Megan said before, like just being able to like really like be surrounded by the people and the things that I love doing. So like my friends also just provide that like sort of assurance, and that like I feel like I'm more like confident with them, like in a sense, like I can trust that whatever I do with them is also like it's like going to go out fine, it's going to work out fine, and things like that. But like also at the same time, what Lanie said, it's like that idea of like all of the stresses and the things that are like also like blocking my mind thinking about like what's ahead of me is like also like fogging me up to think like, oh my gosh, like there's so much like work ahead of me. So like I'm also seeing a similar sense to just like being distracted and finding that sort sense, that like source of distraction, just to like really have that getaway moment.
I guess just out of curiosity, beyond like activities that give you comfort and like hanging out with friends and whatnot, are there any steps that you're, I guess, taking to get out of like, I suppose, a specific comfort zone, like um going out and joining more clubs? Or
Like, do you mean like current times, like right now, breaking your own comfort zone, or like in the past?
it's like a little hard right now, but I guess even now and in the past.
I feel like a big breaking point for me was like breaking that social barrier of me like not wanting to talk to new people. And that really helps me like put myself like to like write my names on more like sign up sheets for clubs, or like apply for jobs or call places to see if they're hiring. And I feel like that's like one big step for me, since I've always like grown up talking to the same people, like not really making new friends, even though that sounds so sad. But I never like found a purpose to make new friends when I was younger, since I was already happy with the ones I had. So when I transferred schools, like towards the end of middle school, I believe, it was like really hard for me since I knew no one there except for like one or two people, which I barely even knew from my other school. So I guess breaking that comfort, like that social barrier for me, really released me into the public, the society.
I think for me, like one of the places that I like find comfort in, even though that might seem like ironic and juxtaposed to like what it actually is, like for me, like sometimes like I just need to like literally like snap out of it and really have that moment where I resort to myself, and like that's just where I like have that comfort zone. And because like sometimes for me, like it's really hard for me to just be open, and just really hard for me to like really share what's on my mind. Like I that's just like what I like, as soon as like have like this instant like sort of like emotional obstacle, like the one the first thing that I do is just like resort to myself. Like I don't really like say anything or like talk to other people or like do any of that. I like, but my comfort zone in that area is just to like resort to myself. And like, yeah, I know that's like really bad, and like that's like really where like the message of stepping out of your comfort zone is important. So like I think just like for me, like one step was just being like just forcing myself. Like I think it's important to really be um one, self-aware, and also be self-disciplinary, like because we obviously like all know like what's up with our lives and what's going on in our lives, and like whether they're good or bad. And I think we all have that like sense of ethical and moral decisions to justify those. And like I really just feel like it's important to really just have that also mindset when considering like your decisions, to snap out of it and really like know when to go out of your comfort zone if it's better for you. Because like for me, like stepping out of my comfort zone in the midst of like just keeping into myself about things that are important to share, like that was when I realized like that's like not good, and I need to break out of the shell. So like that's where my self-disciplinary actions come in. Like I think about like, oh, like I need to motivate myself to text one person, or like I need to call this one person right now. So just being able to force myself and have that self-discipline, I think for me personally was one of my biggest like pushes.
I actually think like I understand that feeling of in that moment, you just kind of need to snap yourself into doing whatever it is that you need to be doing. And like, I think it's really important that people understand that they need to have like like if they have the awareness and that they need to have the awareness that like a certain way they're behaving isn't necessarily healthy for them. Like I'm speaking specifically in terms of like social anxiety, I guess, or like just, like fear of talking about your emotions. And I think it's important that they like take steps, I guess, to like grow and to be to kind of, yeah, break out of that comfort zone. And that, wait, hold on, sorry. um my brain is not functioning right now. But I think to really have that one moment of when you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to send that email because I'm so afraid of like what could happen if I do. And like, I'm afraid of all the rejection, but just letting that moment happen and just going for it, knowing that because if you send that email either way, like it won't really impact you. Like if you do happen to, I guess, succeed with whatever mission you were going for in sending that email, then it's like a positive for you. It's a good thing. But if you fail, like nothing really is going to happen. So it's just realizing that and taking that step forward that I think is really important.
I definitely agree with both of you about being like self-aware and like knowing what you should do, even though if it's like out of your own comfort zone. Like I know it's like really like generic to like think about this or like cliche, but it's like I don't know the saying, but it's like you never know until you try it, I guess. And you really don't because personally, I'd rather just send out that text, send out that email, and if I get rejected or like if it turns out bad, at least I know I did it and I have an answer rather than like living on life like wondering and pondering like what would have happened if I did this, what would have happened if I did that. And I feel that's like one of like the biggest things on my mind where it's like you just have to go for it sometimes because you never really know what's going to happen in the end.
Yeah, it's kind of like what you said with I guess taking challenging courses like APs and stuff like that. Like how I feel about, doing interviews for jobs or something like that, or like volunteering and going through like this entire process and like having that chance of rejection or failure. It's kind of like always been something that I was afraid to take that step forward and get out of, again, like my comfort zone. I don't know. That's sort of something that I've constantly been working on, but I do realize that a lot of the time I'm still holding on to, I guess, that belief that I'm always gonna like fail, I guess, because even if I do take the actions to move forward to some degree, which I know are probably like at least changing me and allowing me to continue taking that step forward, I'm still like mentally stuck in a place where it's just you can't do it. Like you should stay in your comfort zone because that's where you're most comfortable. Like you won't have to face rejection, you won't have to face failure. And I sort of think maybe I need to think more about that and like have more positive reminders that like, oh, like you can do it. Because sometimes when I do end up doing that interview and then I like fail or something like that, I'm like, oh, like this was how it was meant to be or something like that. And I just think um, it's a little, I guess, toxic if I keep thinking that the only thing I need to do is change my actions as opposed to also changing my mentality of thinking that I will never be good enough to do something.
Well, I think that brings us to a really satisfying close to our discussion about stepping out of our comfort zones. We've definitely gone over a lot of examples and personal stories of comfort zones. And we definitely don't know that everyone has their own examples and personal encounters of stepping out of comfort zones. And definitely the way we approach these comfort zones and the way we break out of them or stick with them is definitely different for all of us. But like one thing we've definitely seen here is that we're all having similarities when it comes to thinking about our obstacles. Like we all have these things that we have to face with. We all have these things that lead us into a comfort zone, which may or may not be good for us. But it's important to know like when it is important to step out of the comfort zone and see what steps are good for each person to consider the healthy path to really gaining that sort of personal freedom and personal health in terms of just being able to really just be one's best self. If you like this podcast episode, be sure to check out our other episodes, Behaving Community Inside the Teenage Mind. You could also check us out through our other various platforms, such as Instagram at Haven_community, or on our website, www.thehavencommunity.net. You can email us at contact@thehavencommunity.net anytime, and we hope to be able to get in touch with you. Be sure to look out for our next episode in which we talk about some fun getaway activities and hobbies to find during a moment of confusion and free time.